This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
That's why. Yeah, it comes every Saturday.
I'd like to call our May 16th meeting to order, Board of Finance. A few extra things on our agenda for this meeting. First, minutes of our regular meeting, April 18th. Everyone's had a chance to look at it. Any questions or comments?
I have a suggestion.
Sure.
In reading over the minutes as they are, it looks like our mill rate increase was .69, and I
I
believe
think it was .65, wasn't it?
Yeah, but in the minutes, it says 69. So my suggestion is, fourth paragraph, Mr. Monaco went over the decrement list in detail. Brown suggested additional budget adjustments. The agreed-upon adjustments reduced the mill rate from .69 to .65.
I have no problem. Are you on board with us, Helen?
Sure.
Anything else on the minutes?
Nope, not for me.
Can I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
As amended, you mean?
As amended.
As amended?
I'll move them. as
Second?
amended.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Really, there's no old business, new business. Our reports, start off with expenditures. Questions or comments?
I have a question about the vet services.
What,
Debt services.
Vet services, veterinary services.
That's that.
can you give us a page back?
Well, hold on.
This is expenditure.
I know it's in police, so,
Well, it would be with the police. Page 10. It looks like the cost went up a bit. So is something going on with the dogs? Went from, we projected, our budget was 3,000, and we've spent 9,000 to date.
Is that offset by some money that comes in from Hamden?
Yes, we just might not have gotten the receipt to offset it with yet.
Okay.
So
And
as it comes in, it'll be applied against that account.
then, what is the veterinary service? If there's an animal that's ill, what vet do you use?
Oh,
Or does the
that I
town-
don't know off the top of my head.
Oh, okay. That's it, thanks.
anything else on expenditures?
Yeah, the page 4, building maintenance and repair for the library, is that, I see it's encumbered, is that
Page number?
4.
4? I said 4.
I'm sorry.
If you didn't hear me. The building and maintenance, is that for like paint or security or?
No, we haven't touched the security yet. That's for painting and other issues.
Other issues, so the security that they request is not in here?
No.
Okay.
Yes, Michael?
Just in question, how does the money set aside for contractual negotiations work in terms of how it's handled within the budget throughout the year? The personal policy expenses, they become expended as contracts get finalized, or how does that happen? What happens?
Well, in the budget, we accrue for every year a contract is open 2.5% for that union.
Right.
So the first year is 2.5, the second year would be 2.5 plus 5.
Yes.
Et cetera. And then when a contract is settled, it will go against that account if it's in the current year, or an encumbrance if it's a carryover from a prior year.
Okay.
You don't do that until you actually settle a contract, so it's very lumpy, is that right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so in other words, that line, or that category ends up just being fully expended at the end of the year when
Right, and what'll happen is an encumbrance will carry over, and then when, in the next year, if the contract settles, it'll be applied against that encumbrance, and the rest will be charged against the current budget.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on expenditures?
Yeah, one more thing, on page 7, the central facilities, We're encumbering more, like, that's quite a bit over maintenance and repairs. Do we know what that is?
Again, it's just various repairs to town buildings, whether it's.
So it's a hodgepodge of all
All the buildings.
the buildings, so we don't have a list of what it is.
I could provide you one.
Okay, I'm just curious. Okay.
Revenue?
And by the way, when we're speaking about expenses there, is there any point in which the first selectman might want to interject that there could be some sort of relief for the additional expenses incurred from certain, the most recent storm or a series of weather events this year?
Well, I mean, if we can get through our reports, I
Okay.
mean, we can bring it up.
Yeah, I
at
didn't
the
know
end.
when the right time was. Okay.
Yeah, let's finish with the reports that we have first, and then he can, Mike can, any questions on the revenue? Special funds?
Oh, wait, no.
Not so fast.
Hold on. Go ahead.
No, I had to stop it for you because I know you had a question.
In the town aid bonded money, when does that come in gradually, or does that come in one bundle,
One wire transfer.
one wire transfer?
And as I read, it should be in by the end of May.
Oh, okay, so you have the MRSA bonded distribution already at 903,000 that's come in this year.
No, Mike, what that has always been is a placeholder for, to show you that that's how much we spent on public works related items through this point, through April.
Okay. Good, well, that was one of my questions I was going to have for you when we get to special funds, but,
Right, but I won't show it on that other sheet until it's actually cut. So on that other sheet, well, we could jump to it, there's 3,000. That was for an item that's actually bought out of it.
okay.
This is just a journal entry that will change at the end of the year, reallocate.
I guess to Mike's question, Ed, we have not gotten in the 902, or we have?
No, nothing connected.
No, nothing is, it comes in one wire, usually in May or June.
Even though it's exactly year-to-date revenue?
Correct.
Yes.
So that's a projection,
No,
or
that's,
actual expense.
That's what's
That's-
actually come out of the public works budgets in various accounts that equals the 902, which I could charge against the MRSA fund at the end of the year.
okay. Right, okay, I understand the accounting now. So as it comes out of the special fund account into our general budget, that's the revenue amount. That's the stream as you use it. Okay.
It'll be charged to the separate fund
Yeah.
in that amount.
Okay. So then when the money actually comes in, though, it'll replenish what was taken out of the special fund, and the remainder will go into our general budget and then come out again at the end of the year if it's not expended?
Here's what'll happen. The $1.4 million will go into the special fund MRSA,
Yeah.
the special revenue fund.
Right.
The general fund will have a reduction in expenditures for that amount that I'm showing there.
Okay, as usual, this gets tricky when you're trying to figure out end-of-year evaluations, but okay, very nice.
Actually, Ed, I'm not sure I'm following you
Yeah,
here.
it's pretty odd.
It's just the way, he needs to count it outside the budget, comfort outside the budget.
Well, this MRSA money is the same MRSA money you just said is in the special funds, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So we have $1,365,000 in the ending fund balance, right?
Right.
So if we've got money that's been expended, why don't we take it against the special fund account?
Because a line item, I just make one entry at the end of the year for it. It's either this way or, there's got to be one way to do it. This is the way we've been doing it consistently. So I charge it to the fund at the end of the year and
Right.
reduce the general fund at the end of the year.
Just once at
I
one
guess
time.
yeah, but I guess what I'm getting at, and maybe Mike uncovered, I didn't, is that this isn't really revenue. We're saying we got the revenue in, right?
Right,
But it's not.
it's not.
It's a bookmark
Right.
line.
But it will have that impact on the general fund at the end of
It's
the year.
anticipated revenue that has been
Right.
allocated for this year.
Well, but the danger always is we might not get in the 903, right?
What is that?
Isn't the danger in that we might not get the 903 in?
We're expected to get $1.4 million in.
I
which
know.
is supposed to, as I read in the email we got from CCM, is that it'll be out by the end of May.
So we'll have a balance then. If we have 900,000 in expenses to date,
Right,
and we have roughly 1.4 million
coming
that we're
in,
getting,
right,
so there'll be a balance going forward.
correct. In addition to whatever was there.
What?
In addition to whatever else was there in that special revenue fund.
Okay.
You know, other expenses, you mean?
No,
there's a
other
balance.
funds.
No, there's a balance in the
The
fund.
balance
There's a
fund
balance in the
itself.
fund from
Yeah, there's not-
previous MRSA
Yeah,
distributions.
it's right here.
Right.
But I guess to Pat's point, I mean, those other monies that here that we budget, we're not gonna get in, right? Like this MRS additional sales tax fund, we're not getting that money, right?
Oh, okay, you're talking about something else.
Well,
Yeah.
the math you just gave would be, we'd have $500,000 above and beyond the 900. So I guess to Pat's point, but we're not gonna get the 700 in, right?
No, you're not gonna get that, no.
Right.
Did we originally budget 1.4 coming in? We did not. We did not budget anything.
Because when we put the budget together,
Yeah,
we weren't
right.
expecting to get the money.
Okay, and yet next year we are budgeting 1.4.
Correct, because we're expecting to get it.
Okay. All right, just, I know.
This narrative changes every time. Now, the other day, yesterday, I was at a statewide mayor's meeting. Actually, it was Monday. And we were told that for those towns that had been getting MRSA, by the end of this month, we will get the payment. That could change, but that's what we're
No,
told.
after what's happened, I thought, after the compromised budget, I was able to sleep well at night.
So we're anticipating getting it, so.
But last month, I thought this was going to be the last year we were getting MRSA.
Yeah,
Yeah, now they changed it and said that based on the final budget that was passed, they made a provision for it, to bond for it for next year, this coming year, and that, we should anticipate it for next year. But, again, we don't know what they're gonna do. So I was happy to hear, as all of us were the other day, that we're gonna get it for next year too, starting July 1st, but until we get it,
Yeah.
it's like this year.
Okay.
Is it wise to budget 1.4?
We already built
It's
that.
too late.
we built it into this.
I'm
Late.
talking about for next year.
We already built it in.
Oh, you already built it.
We've had that discussion, all right.
Special funds?
By the way, on the revenue,
Yes.
just two items here. Mrs. Winkowski, did you want to divide up the ECS grant between whatever qualified it for as the special education line versus the ECS line? Did you want to divide that up or not?
Yeah, because in that budget that came out, there was a line item called special education.
Yeah, I know.
For that.
Yeah.
And nothing came in, and they added more to the ECS, so, yes.
And that's an important point to remember. Was it 2.5 million Ed on the special ed grant?
2.5, yeah.
We're not getting it. So we are getting more on ECS, but we're not getting 2.5 on the special grant. Sometimes, even Ed and I, we look at what we're getting, but then we also have to analyze what we're not getting that was projected.
Right. But I can't change the categories that we budgeted.
That's right.
So,
Well, I think it's just before it was subdivided, and then somehow they threw it all back in
They did.
under the same label. But the difference in what we budgeted versus what came in looks like it's about a negative 50,000. Is that right? We got in 3,325,
800,000 to the positive.
and but add that to the 2.5.
Oh, yeah, it's about 50,000.
About
Yeah.
50, we're about 50,000 short.
Yeah.
And let me
Yeah, which is
explain.
pretty,
Yeah, right.
but it's not bad in terms of
337.
of forecasting,
You're right, 50.
in a percentage basis, that's very
Yeah.
good.
Yes. Okay.
We'll go with revenues? Or Mike, you said there was one, or there's...
Just a note that since our tax collection is, up, was that 100.7?
Yeah, well,
100.7%, that seems to indicate that the collection rate could very slightly increase in our in next year's budget. As you anticipated.
That's right, as we
Yeah.
have projected, yes.
Special funds.
The special fund account for the, what's listed here as MRSA, is that going to be reduced as the equipment is approved by OPM?
As it's purchased.
As the
Or
purchase.
as it's
As it's
purchased?
purchased, yes.
Okay. And...
And I handed that list out, I think, at the last meeting.
You did, yeah, yeah. Okay.
We're good?
Please remind me, any sweeps that will be occurring in this fiscal year out of any of these accounts?
That's a
Aside from
question,
the
that's a
MRSA.
question for the end of the year.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I didn't, is it already in our budget as an as a revenue item that's not yet been withdrawn from those accounts?
Yeah, because I had budgeted some from two accounts, police and rec, and ended up deciding not to take most of it from police and use it in next year's budget.
All right, thank you very much.
Any other question on the reports? Have a motion to accept the reports as
Did
presented?
you want to do Board of Ed?
Oh, I'm sorry. Board of Ed.
No, Board of Ed.
Keep me on my toes.
Yeah, I have a question. I know you're not going to be able to answer it because we don't have the Board of Ed here, but on the second page when, the second page, like the professional services, so based on their encumbrances, they're under 100%. So my question that would be to the Board of Ed is they're not encumbering the entire amount for program development, staff development, and police and fire services. So there's nothing in the narrative that explains it. They're only explaining one potential overage. It'd be nice to know why they're projecting these would be underspent, if we could ask them. And then I have to
Can you give me
comment.
the line item?
Yeah.
Yeah, which one's that?
It is
322A.
322A, 322B, and then 330E. And then I'm glad to see that they took my template for the grants and we have meaningful categories and totals. It was the separate form that Ellen handed out, not the one attached. Happy with the report. It's easier to see what's coming in and where we are.
Anything else from Board of Ed? Okay, I have a motion to accept the reports as presented.
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Suspense list? Stacy, you want to just bring us through it?
Good evening, Stacy Yarborough, Town Clerk Tax Collector. I am presenting to you the 2018 suspense list, which is a requirement of the tax collector each year pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 12-165. There are 707 accounts on my list. They total $218,301.16 at the time that I created it, which was a week ago. All of these items, unless they've exceeded the statute of limitations of 15 years, are still considered collectible. But as you know, state law requires us to put these on suspense, so unless there's any objections to anything, I can finalize that after the chairman signs off and everyone agrees.
Any questions or comments for Stacy?
Hey, Stace, there's a couple of names as I reviewed the report briefly that got some larger numbers on them, and the tax years,
Which, can you give me an indication where you're at?
Precision combustion?
well,
Example?
precision combustion is one of them. They're on here numerous times for, fair number of dollars. Franks and Fence is on here a couple times, Racing Enterprises. So just to give you an idea, page 2, third one down, Precision Combustion, $8,100.
I'm sorry, page 2?
Yeah.
Okay, and the third one down. 1, 2, okay, go
So
ahead.
they're on there for 8,100. On page 4, they're on for 3,700. They're on
Page 7 for
page 7 for
$11,000.
$11,000. I do think, as I went, they're on again, page 11, 2,800. Now, I don't think I saw them in some of the later years, like 15 or 16, and maybe they're out of business, but is that one familiar with you at all? Familiar to you all?
Yes, but I don't go beyond a certain time period because it wouldn't make sense really to put anything on that was relatively newer. And so these don't go beyond the 13 grand list, except for there might be a current one for Leon's because they've gone out of business and, yeah.
Well, I see some 2014, 15, and 16 grand lists on here.
Not for, well, that might be, well, look at the reason. For out of business, though,
Oh, I see, death out of business, right?
yeah, there are different reasons. It depends upon personal property, it depends if it's motor vehicle. Some could have been deaths, some could have been bankruptcy, some could have been out of business, which has been confirmed by the assessor's office. And then I have a category which is uncollected for a significant amount of time, going back many, many grand list years. When I started 9 years ago, the grand list went back a long, long time, and we've been pretty good about cleaning it up. So at this point, I try not to go beyond 13 for out of business, for uncollected for a long amount of time. But it could go beyond X date for, if they've passed away, they're clearly not going to pay.
Well, I guess what I was trying to come around to, and I didn't probably do a good job, I guess, is that, so for something like Precision Combustion, where I guess we got some decent-sized dollars here out of the 200-plus you mentioned, do you happen to know if that's an active collection account or not?
Yes, some of them are, including, yes, some of them are.
Are they still in business?
If they are, we're not able to get a hold of them. So we've been constantly ignored. So,
Man, they used to
My
be up
question
as-
is somebody chasing these people?
yes, we
Stacy?
are. But that doesn't mean you can't put them on the suspense list. 'cause
No,
you
I'm
can still
not talking about the
collect.
accounting. The accounting, I'm fine with. I guess I'm just asking you.
No,
if that was-
there are, yes, the answer is there's active
Yeah.
attempts at collection.
And isn't Franks and Fence still in business? Or
Excuse
they-
me?
Franks and Fence, aren't they still in business? Aren't they still in
Yes, there are
Second Road?
active attempts at collection. So sometimes,
Okay. Do we
How
engage,
do we
go about
do we
doing
engage
that?
an attorney?
excuse me?
I'm sorry, how do we go about doing that?
I do it as the tax collector, and then if I can't get anywhere, then I have to turn it over to the town attorney, who takes care of it for me, and we do it together. Depends on the item, it depends on the situation as to which, who I work with.
Have you been successful?
Yes.
Great, good to hear.
Stacy, why don't you maybe take the board through the 18% interest if we're still.
Yes, well, if you, just as a reminder, the list that you're seeing now, the suspense, is actually just the principal. It doesn't include the interest. So if this were actually collected tomorrow and it was an older account, clearly we'd be collecting not only as you've noted, large amounts of principal, but the numerous years of interest, which is 18% per year. And furthermore, you will notice that there is no real estate on this list. So there's a reason, because real estate's not a movable piece of property, whereas mostly what you're seeing on this list is going to be personal property, business taxes, and motor vehicle taxes. We're getting a lot more successful with collecting motor vehicle taxes now that the DMV has upgraded their system in the last year and a half. But unfortunately, they have a lot of bugs they're working out, so I expect that to get better and better. But yeah, sometimes you just can't get blood from a stone.
So if I can summarize this, although it looks bad, we go through this every year. However, because there's an active and aggressive campaign to collect these back taxes, and because the state statute allows and provides municipalities at 18%, in effect, we know some of this will end up being collected, and we'll be accruing the 18% on that. So it's not all negative. Every year we go through the same thing for decades here in North Haven. Every municipality goes through this. So we keep the pressure on, we try to collect as much as we can, and when we do, we get the accumulation of the 18% interest.
It's bad to say it's actually in the town's advantage, disadvantage to the taxpayer, town's advantage, just because the interest rate's so high.
I go about things, and someone had asked me, I'm sorry, I think it was Mr. Lianos, what do I do? I mean, as an example, last year I did a concerted effort towards establishments that have health permits, with the Quinnipiac Valley. And if you go a numerous amount of, the statute requires a certain amount of years to be delinquent, but if you meet or exceed that, then I could actually have the business's health certificate pulled if they don't pay their taxes. And that's a big incentive for, let's say, a restaurant that wants to serve food.
Sure.
So it's very helpful. It's just you have to follow the procedures, and you have to do it the right way. You can't just go willy-nilly. I'm very particular about details, and so I make sure that every step is covered, and I inform whom needs to know, such as Ed or the town attorney. So we are actively always trying to collect the most revenue for the town as we possibly can.
Any other quick?
Great.
Is this the first step before business goes out of business?
Suspense?
Yeah.
No,
If
suspense
they're not
has nothing to
paying.
do with collections.
But if they're not paying,
No, suspense is a requirement under state statute to remove assets from the town's. It's no longer really an asset once it's turned into suspense. So you're removing things that you may never collect off of your viable asset list. That's what it's my understanding. Am I incorrect?
No, you're.
No, you're right, you're right.
You're right.
It's an accounting. It's
Based
just-
on the
it's-
age of the
It's just a
accounts.
write-up of the receivables, what she's
Well,
doing.
not just the age, many
can still collect it.
different
Yeah.
reasons.
Nothing
yeah.
changes.
Right.
This town still has all its rights to collect it.
Okay.
It's strictly an accounting.
By presenting this,
It really is
Stacy,
just accounting, Pat.
Tim,
Yeah.
oh, thank you.
by Stacy presenting it like she would do
But
every
doesn't it
year,
indicate
keeps
that
us
they
in
can't
compliance
pay
with state
their taxes?
statutes.
That's correct, and it's filed in the town clerk's vault, and it's kept forever.
So that's why I
Well,
thought maybe it was the first step.
15 years, so.
Thank you.
The first step, Pat, would be that I would contact the person who is delinquent and/or business who's delinquent, and I always try to work out some type of situation with them. And, worst-case scenario, be it personal property, real estate, et cetera, we don't want to close anyone down. We don't want to have anyone lose their home. My office and the town works as hard as we can to come up with an amicable solution to paying your taxes in a timely manner and moving forward. We're not here to get after anybody. We're just here to do business the way we're supposed to. Any other questions for the suspense list?
Thank you,
Stacy.
Stacy.
Okay, thank you.
Have a motion to accept the tax collector suspense list as presented.
I make that motion.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Appointment of auditor. Ed, would you like to bring the board up to speed?
Sure. We had sent out requests for proposals to the accounting community and auditing community, and received back 3 responses from Blum Shapiro, our current accountant, RSM McGladrey, and another one from O'Connor Davies. I met with Mike Callahan and Rich Monaco. We went over the proposals. All the firms were adequately qualified, and ended up selecting O'Connor Davies to handle the audit, the upcoming audit. We had put it out for a 5-year period, but renewable 1 year at a time in case there was an issue. So we could easily go 5 years. We have a schedule of values or prices for 5 years, and we'll have O'Connor Davies in the current year for $72,500. And that was the lowest of the 3 on top of it. Blum Shapiro was 85 and RSM was 82.
Any questions, Fred?
Where are they from, Ed?
Weathersfield.
And how many other municipalities they do approximately, any idea?
Well,
We
I
did-
put a qualification, I don't know off the top of my head, but they all do quite a few municipalities.
Right.
And one of the stipulations was they have to do at least 2 or 3 municipalities the size of ours or bigger.
Yeah.
And get a CAFR. So they met that qualification. They're probably the top 3 that do municipal audits.
I believe they helped assist us in a
Forensic
special
audit.
audit in the
Correct.
past.
Yeah. Well, Joe did.
Yeah,
Not
I'm
with that
sorry,
firm,
yes,
though.
yeah.
I say, Joe was the...
He was at Costin Rufkus.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm
Joe
sorry,
sent
yes.
the fund.
Yeah.
Carl Santafanti, is it?
Yes.
Fano.
I remember that.
Yes.
Thank you, Ed. Next item, our fiscal 18,
Do we have
19.
to vote on that?
Yes.
We have to vote on it. Can I have a motion to appoint O'Connor Davis as the town's auditor?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for running the meeting so
Two
well.
mistakes tonight, I'm getting tired. Our fiscal 18-19 year budget did pass, so our other duty is to set the mill rate. Yes.
Did you vote on the suspense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, 31.18.
That's what it says.
Yep.
So I make a motion that we set the town's mill rate at 31.18 mil. Can I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I want to thank the people who were at the polls, who worked the polls all day, for allowing me to vote 16 times. I think that was, the 17th I got turned away.
He's bad. He's bad. I'm telling you, he's bad. Anything else procedural we need? We're set for this.
No.
Board members have any comments before we go to public comment?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman. This, well, all right, one thing at a time here. Our health insurance agents, our agencies, have always been split between the town and the Board of Ed. We've had dual agents that sometimes work together and sometimes make things more confusing. And I would like to make a motion that we combine and that the town utilize the Board of Ed's health insurance agent, Brown & Brown, for at least the next fiscal year.
I don't think that falls under our jurisdiction at all, but I understand your point, and I
Does it
said,
fall under the Board of Selectmen's jurisdiction? I mean,
It
who
really falls under Ed's in my jurisdiction. And what I'd rather do, well, you can make
can we
the
make that
motion.
recommendation?
You can make a recommendation, yes.
Yes, you can make the recommendation, and we'll meet with one agent, and we'll tell them what the recommendation is.
Well, I'd like to make that a formal motion that we recommend the use of Brown & Brown as the town's health insurance agent at the next opportunity.
All right, I mean, you can make a recommendation, and that's fine. No other board member except, well, Tim at one point is involved now with it, really have met and understand what the problems are that you're going through.
Well,
I
why don't we
think-
just have a conversation about it, and maybe that's, I'll second the recommendation, Mike, but he's right, I mean, only me, you, and Mike have really been present. It'd be hard for the board members to vote in this, but, so I leave it sort of open as to what you think we should do, but I'm happy to talk about it, because I have some feelings about it myself.
What are the criteria for selecting Brown & Brown?
Aside from the fact that we've been exposed to their consultation and their advice in the past 2 years, and they communicate well, their numbers are reliable, and they seem extremely professional.
What if we were to do this, just talking out loud for a moment, what if the motion was to recommend that we consider putting out, or considering selecting another agent or broker, much like we just took the recommendation from,
I'll do this. I'll take yours and Michael's recommendation. Obviously, the first selectman's here, second and third selectmen are in the audience, but it's not something that we have jurisdiction over. As public comment, we could suggest to the Board of Selectmen, to Mike and Ed rather, that they entertain.
Well,
But
part
the
of the
board itself doesn't have any authority over it.
well, I thought I heard him say
well,
that it's Ed and Mike's authority.
we sit on
Yes.
that workshop committee.
Yeah, that's
And-
why it should be handled there than here.
Yeah, but this is part of the feedback that we're giving of the board right now,
Okay.
and that it didn't work. It didn't work for 2 years in a row.
I agree. I sat in for part of
And
one meeting,
we've-
and I agree with you.
And change is necessary.
So I
I
think
guess-
what you can do, Tim and Mike, is make the because you're both on the insurance committee with me, make the recommendation. We'll call the one agent in, and I'd ask you and Tim to, to identify your concerns, see if they can meet your concerns. If not, then we'll have to make a change. But I think we got to bring them in and tell them the reasons you're unhappy.
Listen, I'm happy to do that, but be honest with you,
I'm not
my
looking
rec-
for them to improve. I'm also looking to combine, to have a single agency for the town and the Board of Ed to relieve ourselves of the confusion between two sets of numbers and two sets of forecasts.
All right. So make the recommendation, Ed and I will take it under advisement and meet with them. That's what I would suggest. We'll accept the recommendation and we'll meet with them and we'll share with them your concerns.
I guess what I wanted to comment on, and I think in general, I'm certainly in favor of what Mike is saying, is that I honestly think that it's time to change the person we have, or the firm that we have. I honestly, having gone through the process this past spring, I think he should be well aware of what our concerns are. I was impressed with Brown and Brown. You know, I think there's a benefit to having one firm handle both the town and the Board of Ed. Doesn't mean we shouldn't, look at other alternatives, but I actually like Mike's idea, but I guess I'll just say I was unhappy with the firm that handled the town side. I didn't think we got good and timely information this past spring, and honestly, we could call him in, but I honestly don't think he deserves a second chance, because it's not a second chance, it's a third or fourth at this point, and I think we need to change firms.
All right, I'll take yours and Michael's recommendation, and we'll pass it along.
We'll address it, Ed.
And let Ed
All right.
and Michael address it. Anything else from board members?
By the way, one housekeeping item regarding the capital expenses in this year's budget. $105,000 is still remaining for the Martha Culver restoration.
We moved it at the end, and we just,
Well, that,
That's gonna be
we do
income
want it,
for
we
this
want it
year.
to go
Yeah,
there,
just-
especially
Yeah, it will.
since they were cut back in next year's budget.
Right.
yeah, it'll just be encumbered at the end of the year.
So we still have 120,000 to work with if you look at the work.
Yes.
The 110 plus the 10.
Yeah, I would just want to make sure that this being our last meeting of this fiscal year, I just want to make sure it wasn't going to get wiped out or thrown
No,
into
it's
some
still-
reconciliation
still
with
moving
another account.
No,
Okay. And again, because this is the last meeting this year, is there any prediction on by the first selectman or the finance director as to where we will stand at the end of the year? If it, I do see that there are, especially with the MRSA money, the town bonded aid money that came in, that gets to relieve a lot of line items in our budget, that we should be well ahead, well into the black at the end of this fiscal year. Is that true?
Well, I
or-
think we could say here in May, we will definitely balance this budget. We anticipate a modest surplus. And keep in mind that we have to continue to make sure that the fund balance is 8%.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of our concerns,
Yeah.
because we can't get downgraded like other municipalities are. So any surpluses or extra money that comes in is going to replenish the fund balance to get it back to 8%. Because in this coming budget, we put $650,000 into that budget from the
Yeah.
fund balance.
And I think, again, unless something else doesn't add up here, we should be.
We should be good.
We should, I think we used about $800,000 from the town bonded aid toward line items last year. Is that correct?
Right.
And if we do something similar to that's
Kinda
exact,
consistent.
that's how much we should be at least in the black.
Plus, we did not fill positions that were in the budget. We accumulated hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of savings by delaying the hires of those positions.
Okay.
Can I just say one more thing? See,
Yeah.
that's the reason I put that money in every month for the MRSA and the revenue, because you could take revenue and expense and get an idea of where you stand. I can't put it against all the line items in Public Works, because nothing will make sense as you go. I just keep it clean and put it in that one line item. See, this is what all the expenses are.
Right.
Well, you used to give us a separate report on the line items that
At the end of the year, yes.
Yeah. Where you applied it to, yeah. The usage of it, the application, yeah. Okay, my next question or issue here, the $20,000 special audit that we have the option of enacting or assigning in a given fiscal year. In this current fiscal year, we have no assignment for those funds. And I wanted to make a proposal that the special audit be engaged and that it go toward the Board of Education transportation accounts, including special ed, and possibly, if it still will fit within that $20,000 budget, an analysis of the Board of Ed's labor allocation by position from, on a position-by-position basis from the initial budget through all their adjusted budgets to the end of the year accounting. And I wanted the chairman of our board here to set the scope of the special audit and in order to get this started.
You lost me in the
No,
last,
the
the
last
second
part-
half. Yeah.
I agree with Michael, because Michael and I have, we talked about this a little bit. And auditing, we can encumber the money to audit for transportation as an
Yeah,
example.
I don't
because
have it in next year's budget.
we have it in this year still. though.
Right.
So
Yes.
let's encumber it this year.
Yep.
And we'll expand it based on
Yes.
dollars to see what we can pick up on positions.
Correct.
Tell me about I just want to make sure I understood the position. Can you explain that again? Or maybe Rich could?
Well, they go through budget changes throughout the year, and then they have a reconciliation at the end as well. And we're trying to get a better understanding of how monies may shift within their budget throughout the year.
You're talking
And their-
after it's been approved, right? You're talking
After-
After it's been
right.
approved.
Right, but they certainly have the authority to make these sort of changes in emphasis and changes in manpower. And in order for us to help understand their budget from the beginning, we want to know how they go about making those changes throughout the year. At least the
Yeah, they shift positions throughout the year, where we do it once a year, or they shift dollars monthly. We're just trying to get a grasp as to how their workforce actually compares to what the budget presented us as.
yeah.
And we just gotta,
We're not saying that
Spend a little
anything,
bit of time. Yeah, I'm not saying anything- we're not saying
anything
anything's
incorrect
wrong.
is happening. We're just trying to get an understanding of how they do it, why they do it, and
help
to-
us to
to-
better
and to the
understand their
degree they do
budgeting
it.
process. And we can encumber.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to give you the authority and the flexibility to make the scope of what that audit should be. But my emphasis, or my focus is regarding the Board of Ed Transportation and their usage of that in special ed transportation, how they decide what runs the fund and whether there might be a better way to create efficiencies there.
Understood. Anything else from board members?
Was that? Again, the question I had earlier, does the first selectman wish to interject in terms of whether any federal dollars or outside money might be able to help give us relief for overtime and other expenses due to the recent storm?
The answer is yes. Now, you got to keep in mind, everyone, that this just hit, and today I was out there all day long witnessing the carnage that is existing in certain parts of the town. Trees are down, homes have trees that have crashed into them, some cars were crushed, wires are down, infrastructure has to be rebuilt in its entirety in certain sections of town by the UI and their outside contractors, and we still have roads that are closed. It looks like the debris that's going to be generated as a byproduct of this storm is going to be larger than anything we have experienced. Now, we've done storm pickup this year. People don't realize that that's a very expensive proposition for us, and there's no budget for it. Because not only do we have to spend the labor to pick it up, but we have to spend a significant amount of money to remove it and deposit it.
Dispose of it.
And dispose of it. So we're already over $50,000 on that. And what was happening is that we were doing this for weeks and weeks, and then there was still brush out there. We had to stop this service because it's really costing us a lot of money. Now, with the storm that just hit, the trees and the debris that's out there, we're talking massive trees that are down. So I'm already working, even though I was out there all day today with the citizens and surveying the area with the fire chief, I'm already working with our federal representatives, myself and the mayor of Hamden. Hamden was devastated also, to get us in line to get reimbursable expenses. But the scope of the work will be so significant that we don't even have the resources to do it in the town. We don't have the resources. That's how much of a magnitude this is. So we're gonna probably have to hire outside contractors and then get the reimbursement from FEMA and the federal government. That's the plan right now. That's the parallel path I'm working on. In addition, and I really have to leave shortly because I got people in town that are out of power that I've got to get to. I've got to check roads tonight. We got to make sure that the UI is still out there. So I'm on a tight time frame here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be leaving in a couple of minutes. But that's the parallel path that that we're working on. And I'm very confident we're going to be able to deliver that.
Yeah, so many towns together, do they work through the state or whatever in order to make this application of the federal government?
Yeah, I've already have the applications. Ed and I will review it with Ed tomorrow because when I met with Ed earlier, Ed doesn't even know what I'm saying now because I just got this update before I walked into this meeting. There'll be an application process. We will, similar to what we did in Irene and Sandy, we'll be itemizing and tracking the expenses for FEMA. And then we'll work with FEMA and the federal government to ensure that there'll be money to reimburse us. Okay?
Thank you.
Board members are good. Public comment. Ms. Fleming.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Sally Blaney, 5 Blossom Drive. I'll try to be quick in deference to you having to leave. I just want a few quick points. One, on the expenditure budget on page 7, under central facilities, the maintenance and repair for town buildings is 43% over. It was originally a $100,000 line item. And so many other departments have their own maintenance and repair, like library, the fire department has a significant maintenance and repair, I believe 95,000, police, sanitation. Many departments have maintenance and repair, so I was just wondering what that 100,000, well, I'm more interested in the 43% over, what buildings that is for. Is it this one?
A lot of it's to do with this in the annex.
This in the annex,
Yeah.
okay, primarily, because the
Yeah,
Board
I
of
don't know
Ed
the
has,
percentages, but there's a lot.
okay.
Yeah. We don't split it between us and the Board of Ed because we maintain it.
Right, because the expenditure pages are just littered, I don't mean that in a negative way, I mean, with maintenance, repair, not every department, but most have some, so I was just wondering what exactly that was for, so it's
And also
basically this,
Those two and also some rental properties that we have.
some rentals,
Yeah.
okay. I did have a question for you, Mr. Swinkowski, about the $903,459 on the top of page 2 of the revenue budget, the MRSA money that you say, it isn't revenue yet, but it's your Public Works total expenses, you said.
Right, that's all the money that I could charge to the MRSA fund at the end of the
Right.
year through April.
Now, I understand that, but
Right.
my question is, in arriving at that total, what numbers do you use? And I'll give 2 examples. For example, one of the usual line items that MRSA is used for is under streets and roads for winter maintenance and supplies.
Right.
And we budgeted 140, but we've spent or encumbered 285. So in that 903, do you have the 285 or do you have the 145 that we're over? You see what I'm saying? Because that's a very common area where you see a huge write-off from MRSA.
Yeah, that is
So I'm
one of
just
the accounts
wondering-
on the list,
Yeah, but what number are you using? Are you
the
using?
actual spent.
Yeah, but within that, we've budgeted 140, so it's kind of a double dip there, isn't
No,
it?
I'm just reimbursing the general fund for it at the end of the year.
Right, but my point is, if you're including in that 903, the 285 that we've either spent or encumbered for winter maintenance and supplies, we already budgeted in our budget 140. So shouldn't it just be 145? Well, anyway, we'll see what the numbers come in August is always an interesting
So let me
meeting.
try, can I try to
Yeah.
answer that?
Sure.
So if you look
Do
at the
you-
145, with the storms we had earlier in the year, with overtime, whatever it may be, for expenses, for materials, for plowing, we generally will overspend that line in high storm years. So Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is, you put the 285 in the 903 because that's what we spent and that's what we can use.
Right, I
even
want
if
to
it-
use the money, yeah.
So if the 145 became 280, the 280 becomes what we can use out of MRSA,
Right.
which
But-
includes the 140.
Right, but if we use all of MRSA for the 285, then we haven't used the 140 that we budgeted
Right,
for.
it ends up being a surplus.
It's a surplus.
That's
It's a
right.
surplus.
Yeah,
that
okay, I
gets-
was just wondering
That can be used to
how you.
reconcile other accounts.
Right, I understand
less
how it
restrictions on it.
ultimately comes out in the wash. I was just trying to figure out that 903, and so it's the total expenses, not necessarily the net over.
That are
Okay.
related to it, yeah.
I just wanted a better understanding of the number.
Screwing it about for 3 years.
It's not, there's
secondary.
other accounts as well, but we have the straight time for the people doing the plowing, the overtime.
Right, there's, yeah, I wrote
Security.
down overtime for streets and roads.
Yeah.
We budgeted 150, it's 315, so that's a difference of 165.
Right.
So I didn't know whether you put 315 in or 165, but now I understand how you came up at 903. Okay. I'm not as panicked about it as I was a few minutes ago, because we have great plans for what we were hoping would be leftover MRSA money. So that's why I wanted to know how the 903 was calculated. Do you get my
Yeah, I
line of
do.
thinking?
Yeah.
I always want you to understand
I do.
my line of thinking.
I do.
And then I just had another question on the revenue side. On page 2 of the revenue budget, under paramedic services, we budgeted 0 and we've collected 4842. And then when you look on the special funds, it says on the bottom there, Deputy Chief PB. Is PB paramedic billing?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's obviously the same exact number.
Yes.
4842. I was just, because we've also spent almost 140,000 to get the 4842. And I'm thinking back a couple of years when we met with the fire chief and we were discussing hiring the deputy chief to do the billing. Has the billing gone through a full year yet?
No.
Because we were told $300,000 to $400,000 in income and
The
4,000.
billing had just, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I just wondered, I was expecting a larger number, and I'm sure you were too.
Yeah, and I can get it. You answered that.
And the
Okay.
billing, they just started the billing November 1st, and they started processing the bills after the services were provided, and it will take several months to collect on it all. So they're building up a balance in receivables, but insurance and Medicare, they're very slow payers many times. So this is all we've seen actually collected through April, but there's quite a substantial balance in receivables right now.
Right.
But it doesn't
Okay.
get reflected till that money actually comes in.
Okay, well, that's, again, I was, we were, I can't say promised, but we were predicted much higher numbers
Yeah.
at that meeting, but you said to start in November 1st, then why is the year-to-date expense 140,000?
Because
Is that the salary of the,
Yes,
okay,
through
all right.
10 months, with benefits.
I have a couple other things, but they could wait till August when we get the final thing. I know the first selectman has to go, so I'll pass on to anyone else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'll also try and make this quick. I have a question about the 16-vote differential in favor of and opposed to the budget. Is that recountable?
Yeah, I think Stacy, you would answer that.
No, there's no requirement in. There's no requirement for our town in our charter nor in our ordinances, which we would require an automatic recount for that number, or any number at all.
Thank you.
Mike, you mentioned the tax collection rate, and I may not have heard you correctly. You said 1.7. Should that be
100.7, 100.7.
100.7?
Yes.
Okay, so it's 1.07. Okay, all right, it's not 1.7. The last thing is that it was a very poor turnout on the budget referendum. And the fact that it was almost split 50-50 tells me that there's no unity in this town for this particular budget. There are almost as many people against it, others are for it, which to me indicates that we're not doing our job. Either you didn't explain it properly, or you could have done better. I don't know what the answer to that is. I'm going to let you try and sleep at night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's a good point.
Anyone else? Mary?
I have some questions. I'll try to go fast. Can you tell us, in a yes or no, if a budget referendum fails, doesn't the Board of Finance meet again and make cuts to across the board, town side, BOE side, to lower the mill rate increase?
Yes.
Yes, Mary.
Okay.
yeah.
Let's see. Is it correct to say that the Board of Finance budgeted for the Public Works budget? You did budget money for that, correct?
Well, as part of the budget, Public Works had a
Yeah.
portion of the budget, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so then can you tell me, as far as like the MRSA money? So the MRSA money is supposed to come in at the end of May. So what I'm trying to ascertain is the money that, because I'm trying to find out whether or not the Board of Finance budgeted for the MRSA money that you didn't know you were going to get.
No,
No, we
not
didn't.
not this fiscal year, no.
Okay. Relative to the MRSA money and the placeholder for expenditures for Public Works and the special fund MRSA money to go to the general fund. So it is the town's money. You just said that you budgeted for the Public Works Department. After the, let's see, other accounts are reconciled and the fund balance goes from the 7.77% back up to the 8%. And then with the town bonded aid money coming in, and there'll be a modest surplus, can't money be used to fund, say, the 2 fire apparatus? Because it clearly sounds like we're going to be in the black. There's going to be a surplus. Can't that money, some of that money, be used to fund those 2 fire apparatus, which we need in a lease to purchase?
No. MRSA money can't be used for fire equipment, if that's what you're asking. MRSA money can only be used streets.
Yeah, but I'm saying you move the money,
I know what you're saying.
okay,
I know you-
from the special fund MRSA, when you get it, okay? You move it to the general fund.
Yes, right.
So that's the whole
No, we
town.
don't.
So I'm saying,
No.
you can't do, it's your money, it's the town's money.
So let me sort of.
Versus the MRSA money goes specifically to the Public Works.
So let me try to rephrase it, Mary, so that people understand here. If we reduce the Public Works budget by applying those items to MRSA, that would create a surplus potentially in the year-end number. The surplus goes in the general fund. If in September or October, one of the vehicles is non-functional and we don't have it budgeted for, we would call a town meeting to get it appropriated out of the fund balance. That's the way it would work. We just can't internally purchase it. We'd have to call a town meeting, because the cost of it may exceed what's in the contingency. So any large expense, we call a town meeting, the public would vote on it to authorize it out of the money in the fund balance. Ed?
No, you're correct, Mike. Anything over 20,000 in that case would go to the town meeting. We don't have it in the budget, so
Which we did for a piece of fire apparatus.
we've
years
done
ago.
that in the
Yeah.
past.
We
yes.
did that
Yep.
in '07, Tim, when you and I were on the Board of Finance.
Can you tell us if the new committee, which is the Fire Call Data Research and Fire Labor Alternatives Committee, has met yet?
No, we have not.
The reason for that, Mary, is we're waiting to see what happened with the referendum, and then the meeting will be called. Ed and Rich and others are part of that, so.
Okay.
And the fire chief, of course, is part of
Fire
that.
chief. Has a meeting with the Yale Urgent Care Center taken place?
No, not yet. However, the fire chief has done a great job with his group, gathering some preliminary information that they've presented to me, and the plan would be to meet with them to determine the number of calls that maybe we don't have to make.
Okay. Has a meeting with AMR taken place, as far as,
No, the update-
discussing what's going on?
There's been no meeting yet with AMR, just so everyone understands this whole AMR thing, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I want to set the record straight. AMR is the contracted carrier for municipalities all over the country, including the 8 municipalities that we're involved with MedCom, of which I'm the chair of MedCom, the 911 emergency dispatch system in the greater New Haven area. We are still proceeding with trying to take the PSA back from AMR. But even our own people would admit that AMR, when we looked at the tragedy on Quinnipiac Avenue, Maple Avenue, they had 9 ambulances on the scene. So what we're trying to accomplish is get the PSA back, which is what we've been talking to with AMR, and then award them a contract back for multiple years. This was the fire chief's idea. So we've not had that next meeting yet. There's a lot of this misinformation out there. Why does the town have AMR? The town has had AMR for decades, like every municipality in the state. Milford was the first one to overturn the decision. So we are working with AMR, and our goal is to continue to have a relationship with them, but one that involves us taking the PSA back. And that allows us to set emergency management standards that the fire chief's done a great job in working on with specific times. But AMR has really been performing here in the last several months. And I have to be honest with you, I'm making the statement on live TV here. I don't think anybody, any other contract carrier ambulance firm could have done what they did in the light of this major tragedy we had here on Maple Avenue. But I want to be clear also, we're still working with the parties to see if we can take the PSA back. That's where we're at.
Can you tell me if the fire department's contract is still under negotiations?
No, we settled that. And that was, we settled it very well with the fire department, Ed.
Yes, we did.
And the fire department and the union represented themselves in a highly professional fashion during the negotiations. And we commended them for that. So they did a great job. We did a great job. Ed, our attorney, I got involved at the end, but it was a contract that has been settled.
Okay, how would we be able to find out if anything was incorporated in the negotiations, such as different labor alternatives other than the A, B, C, D, 8 men working 24 hours, 72 hours off, or any other type of labor choices or options? Did they,
No.
anything like that,
No.
get negotiated in there?
No,
Okay.
the fire chief always has, as every other department head does, we have them involved with the negotiations. They're really a great asset to us, as the fire chief was, on some of the operational language issues. Fire chief knows better than Ed or the town attorney or even myself as to what implementations he would like to make. And the fire chief does that, and the police chief does that. But I don't think there's been any major significant changes in any of the language, Ed.
No.
So,
Okay.
Minor adjustments Paul was
Right.
working with them on, but that was
Yep.
about it.
Okay. Can you tell us if, in that negotiation, if they, if early retirement options, packages
No.
were discussed or approved?
no, they were not discussed and were not approved.
Can you tell us if it's appropriate that there's a quorum for the new committee here at the Board of Finance? Is that appropriate?
So
We're
There's
not a
4
quorum.
people.
There's only 2 members of the same board. It's not a quorum.
It's not a quorum. So I thought you're on it,
Yes.
Chair. Mr. Sinkowski?
But I'm not on the board.
He's not on the board.
He's on the
Oh, but you're
board.
not on
I'm
the
a
board?
employee.
Oh, okay, but you're in the room, but, okay, and then Mike's on it, okay.
Just 2 of 7, yeah.
Okay, so how many are on the board?
4.
Okay. I would like to suggest that a 5th member be added to that four-person committee. Let's see. So we have the Director of Finance, the Chair of the Board of Finance, and Mike Callahan. You guys are finance people. So I would recommend adding someone who has years of expertise and understanding of the fire department policies and procedures. And that person would be the Chair of the Fire Commission, Pat Nuzzolillo. And as a courtesy, the fire chief should be consulted, and if the fire chief is in agreement that Pat Nuzzolillo should be asked, and then he's in agreement, and then Pat is asked, then can he be added to the new committee? Since you haven't met yet, so.
I mean, that's the first time hearing of it. I would have.
Pat can obviously speak to the committee. He does not need to be a part of the committee.
But what I'm suggesting is, as a resident, you know, I'm bringing forth this concept that this person, who is the chair of the fire commission, be added to the committee. So you're saying he is not able to be added?
I don't see a reason to add him.
Well, I think
But you see, what I'm saying is you have 3 finance people, and you have 1 fire chief who has the expertise. I'm saying let's bring in a 2nd person, okay, who has fire knowledge and understanding of fire department policies and procedures. I don't understand what the problem is.
I would consider it. I mean, well, yeah, I mean, ultimately, the committee's going to have to make a
We're going to be
decision.
taking information and advice from a number of different sources.
Right.
As we conduct business.
Paul could confer with him as he needs to.
I'm saying when y'all meet, it's 4.
Yeah,
It's
it's-
3 finance people and then 1 expert in the fire department. You know, policies, management, you know, everything, procedures. So I'm saying to have a 2nd person there makes sense, right? You got 3 finance people. Why not have a 2nd fire person, you know, with
You can
expertise?
take it under advisement.
Yeah, look, we're open-minded here, Mary. We'll take it under advisement. We'll talk to the members separately, and if they agree, I'll talk to Pat and invite him on it. But the commission is certainly going to get updates as to what the committee's doing.
The committee is not setting down procedures. The committee will evaluate the information, talk to a number of sources, and make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. Nothing they say is etched in stone. Nothing they say needs to be acted upon.
I'm just saying to have another expert there.
All right, we will take it, we will
Sounds
consider it,
good.
Mary, okay?
Can you tell us, I guess, Ed, if the over $1 million has been generated in fire inspection fees? Does that sound
It's in the
about right?
revenue.
Well, the biggest part of that
Not
would have been Amazon.
Amazon.
Amazon was a huge part of that. That was a one-time, non-recurring revenue there, although there will be continued revenue from the fire inspections. Was it $1 million? I mean, the total check was 1.4 million.
Yeah, between that and building.
Between that and building. That was split between building and fire
Okay.
for Amazon.
So, and then there's also revenue being generated. We understand balance is in receivables for the reimbursement for the fire paramedic transport fees. My point is, money generated, whether it's the fire paramedic transport fees or fire inspection fees, after the deputy and the company are paid, why can't some of that revenue, which is generated by the fire department, why can't it be used to, you know, say for the purpose of purchasing fire department apparatus or hiring 2 firemen paramedics, since the fire department is generating
It's
that
an outside
revenue?
vendor actually generating most of the revenue is being generated by an outside vendor who's doing the fire service. It clears through the general fund, that state statute.
Okay, so
It doesn't-
it's
it's not
not the fire department?
Stacy collects taxes, should her department keep all that tax money that comes in.
Okay,
Same thing with all those other special accounts. It has to clear through the general fund.
Right.
It has to pay for the cost of the deputy.
As it is, yeah.
Fire.
Oh, that portion is
Additional,
supposed to
yeah.
pay
Well,
for
you're
it.
Mary
additional-
saying the
the
over
additional
the
personnel.
expense.
I'm sorry.
You're saying anything over the budgeted amount on the expenses, right? It goes, as Rich said, it goes into the general fund.
Goes to the general fund?
Right.
Okay. All right, and lastly, I just wanted to let you guys know, since obviously there was no lease to purchase fire apparatus put in the budget, and there was no hiring of 2 firemen, or any firemen paramedics. That on April 24th, when the Fire Commission met, there was reported that there were 340 calls for service, 13 highway accidents, and 1 fire. 64% of the calls for service were for EMS ALS. 76 calls were overlapping or simultaneous emergencies, where the 1 fire paramedic on duty was out on the first 911 emergency call. So those 76 people did not receive the fire department's paramedic. And reported at this time in April 2017, there were 1,372 alarms. That same time now, back in April 2018, last month, there are 1,457 alarms. So that's an increase of 85 alarms. So anyone who states that there is no increase in the number of alarms is not stating the truth.
Mary, on the
and-
overlapping calls, I'm assuming AMR responded, correct?
Yeah, AMR does respond, but they're not obligated, and they don't, they provide 2 EMTs.
What do you mean they're not obligated?
They're obligated.
They're obligated.
Well,
yes.
we heard at the budget meeting, some fella got up there, and he's talking all about how once in 2009, 2010, when the town of North Haven went to a fire paramedic program that, and you can all tell me if it's mistaken, if not correct information, that allegedly that when that happened, that AMR was released or no longer has to provide a paramedic on their ambulances. Does anybody know if that's true or not? Because that's what was told.
They no longer carry the license, the town carries the license. As far as I know, AMR keeps 2 ambulances in town. One of them has a paramedic on it, and the other one has 2 EMTs on it.
So they do keep that
As far as I
in
know,
town?
AMR has a paramedic in an ambulance across from the fairgrounds, and they have an ambulance with 2 EMTs on Divine Street.
Divine Street. Okay.
I go by it every day.
Yep.
I see them there.
All right, so then that really wasn't a correct statement that was made.
No, they don't have to come, but obviously they're in business to respond, and they keep equipment here for that.
The point was made
have this PSA,
that they
that
do
must
not
require
have
Yeah.
to provide
No,
a
we have a
paramedic on an ambulance because in
I
2009,
have
2010.
no idea what the agreement is. All I can say to you is, I know
Oh, I see.
99% of the time across from the green
To every call.
is a paramedic, across from the fairgrounds is a paramedic,
Paragraphs, okay.
and on Divine Street, it's usually just EMTs.
Okay, all right. And then finally, we have all heard about the increase in thefts of vehicles or inside vehicles occurring during the night in the town of North Haven. I was wondering if the chair of the Board of Finance, the finance director, a member of the Board of Finance, and the police chief will form a new committee.
No, that's done through the police commission, Mary. That they have the authority on that. That's a police commission issue, not a Board of Finance issue.
Okay, so as far as like, because many residents feel that there's not enough police officers patrolling at night, that's part of the problem. And so, like, different ideas are coming forward, such as why can't the town maybe hire, say, armed security guards that can help with the patrolling during the night? So are you saying there's not going to be a new committee to talk about alternative labors, police department labors?
No, there's been no discussion on that. But the residents are, and this is what happens at the police commission meeting, residents are able to go to, that's a public meeting also, and express their concerns. This Board of Finance cannot start getting involved with that in the police department. That's a police commission issue. They are the, not only the traffic authority, but they're the ones that are addressing that. I think at the police commission meetings, there's statistical information that's given every month. So that would be done by the police commission.
So anybody who thinks that there's not enough police patrols occurring at night should go to the police commission
Yes.
meetings and express that.
Yes.
And
And then
then
that would-
ask them what they're going to do about it.
Yes, and in the end, if in January's workshop sessions, the police chief then comes to us and says, you know, we need more people, then that's the process. Then it will come before, it would be built into the budget, it would be decided whether it gets in the budget, and then the budget would be voted on or rejected.
It's interesting because it sounds like what you described, that's not what's happening with the fire department.
We made a compromise with the fire department. We did the same thing with the fire department. We did not accept the recommendation of the 8 firefighters. But in a spirit of compromise here, and I was the one, the driving force behind this, we put $140,000 into the contingency. We took it out, we parked it aside, and we said we will continue those discussions with this committee. We could have said no. We could have shut it down. We didn't. We kept it open, an open discussion.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Hey, Mary, I just want to add one thing, and I hope my information is not too dated, but when I was on the Board of Selectmen with Mike and Sally, the chief came before us and talked about the break-ins, and one of the biggest problems was people leaving their cars unlocked. I'm not saying that people weren't out there trying to get into your car, but in fact, he talked about, I think he talked about someone had their car stolen twice when they left their keys in it both times. So, you know,
That's part of the problem?
yes, it's part of the
For
problem.
sure, you leave it unlocked.
Yeah.
You're asking for it. You put your keys, you leave your keys in it, you're asking for it. But there are now thefts occurring where the
Right.
vehicles are locked.
Yeah.
And, you know, one individual lost the company van, you know, it was
Right.
locked. So it's not just unlocked and leaving the
Right.
keys in.
Just so, I want to just, before I go, to Mary's point here, that being a member of Police Officer Standard Training and post at the state level and the collaboration among all the police departments, there is a string of, I'm going to say, thieves that are stretching from north of Meriden all the way down I-91, down 95, and up 95. This, unfortunately, is a problem in at least 17 different communities right now. And part of the problem is juveniles are not in the state DNA database. And that takes away a very effective tool for police departments in apprehending these criminals. And maybe that's got to change in the future. So it's a problem that in the Greater New Haven area and up as in the areas I've mentioned, it's happening right now. But I'll tell you what, our police department have done a great job so far. And what we realize in law enforcement or fire service, we can never predict when there's going to be a problem. If we've got X amount of officers patrolling the streets during the day and night, they're covering 194 miles worth of roadways, over 10,000 units that exist in North Haven, whether they be houses or apartments, and 22.1 square miles of geography. It's very difficult. It's a reactionary segment of, as Tom would know. Tom was in public safety for years, Tom White. It's a reactionary type of department model here in town. And not only our town, but other towns.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.